So 2020 has brought us so many new stars to the UFC, so I thought in this video today I'd go through my top 5 breakout stars and fighters of 2020, and then I'll talk about why they're in the positions they're in on my list, starting at number 5, ending with number 1, and also including some honourable mentions at the end, and for the reasons why I did not put them in my top 5, I will include those as well. However, let's start with number 5 and work our way to number 1, and I do want to mention before I even get into this list, a lot of people see breakout fighters and stars as something just based on Instagram followers. I'm not going to base my list on that because I don't think it is based on that. And plus, Instagram followers can be bought and they don't accurately represent how much star power brings to the table, because people can be a fan of you but not like agree with you on a lot of stuff. People can be entertained to watch you fight. Like Colby Covington doesn't have the most Instagram followers, but he has a lot of people that want to tune in when he fights. Instagram followers are fans of you, people that know you are a different situation. I'm not going to base this entirely on Instagram followers, and I'm going to go through my top 5. Starting with number 5 on my list, Joaquin Buckley is the number 5 breakout fighter of the year in 2020 when you consider how little time he did it in when he lost to Kevin Holland in August of 2020. This guy has not needed an entire year to turn his career around right now, because he started in August of 2020 in the UFC getting KO'd in the 3rd round by Kevin Holland brutally, highlight reel worthy. It was dangerous. Kevin Holland completely, that's like a career ending knockout, because not only did he get KO'd in the 3rd round, but he also kind of got KO'd in the 1st round as well. But Holland just messed up the walk-off KO and then went out there in the 3rd round and got it done instead there and knocked the mouthpiece out. It was terrible. And I thought to myself, wow, Joaquin Buckley, it depends what he does with his career, but this might change his career forever and he might never be the same again. Then he turns around 2 months later and I said, no, wait, 100% Joaquin Buckley's career is over. He's taken on undefeated 8-0 Impa Kasanganay from the Contender Series in his 2nd fight, 2 months removed from basically being KO'd twice in one night against Kevin Holland, and he turns his entire career around. And not only does he do it in October with the spinning back kick KO of Impa Kasanganay, which changes his career trajectory massively. He's completely turned it around. He went from a guy who might have been cut from the UFC if he lost to Kasanganay, which was a close fight while it lasted as well, to now being the big thing in the division and gaining the babying of Dana White and the UFC, which is a huge deal. They're now going to set up his career entirely from now on. He then went on and beat Jordan Wright, who was an absolute can, but 11-0, but we know he's an absolute can because he hasn't fought anyone good whatsoever. But also, moving on to Alessio Di Chirico next year, it's very clear the direction they're going in with Joaquin Buckley, and I think he gained something more than followers and gained something more than credentials in a division or ranking next to his name. He gained the babying of the company in one fight after being KO'd 2 months prior and being on someone else's highlight reel. And now they're setting him up with easy bouts because Alessio Di Chirico's lost 3 in a row. Why would you match him up with Joaquin Buckley right now? But that's what they're doing. So that's what they're doing. Joaquin Buckley is off to the races in 2021. I just didn't put him higher on my list because although he's a breakout star and everyone knows who he is now, no one really likes him. Personality-wise, the stories came out about James Krause and Joaquin Buckley. I think that got hundreds of thousands of views, that interview, and then you look at the Instagram followers of Joaquin Buckley, and they're way, way lower. I feel like there's a little bit of an American thing about people not wanting to give away follows to people where there isn't in other countries, so I feel like a lot of people know about Buckley. He got that highlight reel KO. I mean, people that didn't even follow the sport that I know in real life know about the KO that Buckley got. So I don't think Instagram followers directly represent how big of a star you are. But Joaquin Buckley's at number 5 on my list. Moving on to number 4 of the year. Another breakout star is Giga Chikadze. Knockout cancer. I like this guy. 5 wins in a row in 2020. And he did very well in all of those fights. And not to mention, at the start of the year in 2020, Giga Chikadze was an unknown guy. He'd been kind of talked about for his kickboxing record, but then he came in 2019 and took on Brandon Davis and took him to a split decision. Now, he beat Brandon Davis. I thought 2 rounds to 1 pretty clearly, but you know what? They gave it a split decision. It was a razor close fight. And after that performance, like, Brandon Davis was 10-7. 10-7. And Giga Chikadze was taking him on. And Brandon Davis has also fought a bantamweight as well, and Giga Chikadze is a featherweight. So to him, going from a split decision against Brandon Davis at the start of the year, and everyone kind of thinking, including myself, that, oh, we haven't really got anything on our hands here. He's fought nothing but cans on the regionals, and now he's making it look close against Brandon Davis. He'll be gone out of the UFC in a couple of years. So I started picking against him, and now, in 2020, he's beat Jamal Emmers. Even though by split decision, it's still Jamal Emmers, 17-4, somewhat decently good. And another guy, Erwin Rivera, turned right back around in May, then turned right back around in October and took on a big jump up in competition as well in Omar Morales, who was 10-0, and I feel like as soon as he beat Morales, there was like a real switch in a lot of fans' eyes that just went, okay, we've actually got something on our hands here, and he might just fight to the level of competition that's put in front of him. So he took on Jamie Simmons, 7-2 guy, in November as well. That's 5 fights in a year, won every single one of them. He went from relatively unknown before joining the UFC, and even once joining the UFC, to all of a sudden being the guy that everyone's talking about from the start of the early prelims to the main card to now calling for co-main or main events against Jeremy Stephens. I think Giga Chikadze's gained a lot this year. He's gained the respect of the people of Georgia. Georgia's on the map now because of guys like Giga Chikadze this year, among others like Marab and Ilya Tapuria, but still, I think Giga Chikadze kicked the door in for Georgia this year, got the job done, put himself on the map, gained a whole bunch of Instagram followers as well, and now he's looking at rankings in 1 year in the UFC. That's a massive jump as well, and he didn't just do it like Adesanya did. A lot of talk about Adesanya's rise through the rankings in the UFC. Yeah, in the middleweight division where there's like 10 guys outside the rankings. This is the featherweight division. He's rose through 5 people so far, and good people as well. Omar Morales is no joke, you know what I mean? That's a good win to have, and he kind of dominated him over 3 rounds. Now he's looking towards those rankings. I like Giga Chikadze's rise this year. He is one of my breakthrough fighters of 2020. Moving on up the list, Marvin Vettori sits at number 3 of my breakthrough fighters because, again, at the start of this year, he was just the guy that shouldn't have got a split decision against Adesanya, but did anyway, and now there's conversation because of it. That was the guy who Marvin Vettori was. He had 10, 20k followers on Instagram, went into his fight against Andrew Sanchez at the end of 2019, had an okay performance, I guess, wasn't blowing anyone out of the water, took Cesar Ferreira to a decision, competitive, but he got the job done, took Omari Akhmedov to a draw in 2017, Adesanya lost, like he was in a real bad position of his career, barely beat Andrew Sanchez, but, you know, did enough every single round. It was just too competitive for anyone to really latch onto Vettori as this huge superstar. I considered him a talented fighter, so I picked him to beat Carl Roberson, and he went out there in 2020 against Carl Roberson. And I also want to mention this. He went from being some random guy to the face of Italy in the UFC. He also, even without fighting, added so much value to his name, because when the fight was cancelled between him and Carl Roberson, the interaction he had where he's screaming at Roberson backstage got so much popularity for him. That was a massive moment in his career. That was almost as much popularity as if he would have went out there and KO'd Carl Roberson anyway. He eventually goes on to finish Carl Roberson in the first round, which is something we haven't seen from him his entire career since his guillotine choke in his debut against Alberto Uda in 2016. Gets the first finish of his career, and then I would not include him on my list if he didn't jump straight to the top 5 of the middleweight division in one win from the Carl Roberson fight. He gets barely ranked at middleweight. Now he's taking on Jacare Souza, who isn't ranked in the middleweight division whatsoever, and who knows how much credit that's going to give him. Now he takes on Jack Hermansson on short notice, and he's in the top 5. And we went from talking about Marvin Vettori versus an Omari Akhmedov rematch, an Antonio Carlos Jr. rematch, maybe Brad Tavares if he wins his next fight, here, there, and everywhere. We went from talking about those matchups to now him versus Paulo Costa in the space of one fight this year. Against Jack Hermansson, he took it on short notice when he was training for a 3-rounder, took it for 5 rounds, looked great in the 4th and 5th round. I think Marvin Vettori went from the guy who lost a split decision to Adesanya that didn't really have a split decision. It should have been a win to Adesanya, quite clearly, 2 rounds to 1. But still, he went from that guy to now being a real threat, breathing down Adesanya's neck in 2 fights, and now he's looking to take on Paulo Costa in main events wherever he wants to. I'm assuming they'll try and do an Italy event with him if they can next year, if things return to normal. I know Italy's in a bit of a weird spot right now, but we'll see how it goes. Other than that, though, Marvin Vettori's number 3 on my list of breakout stars, and now number 2. It's Khamzat Chimaev. Khamzat Chimaev is number 2 on my list of breakthrough fighters and stars of 2020. I like Khamzat Chimaev's growth this year. He's had like a 1 million follower increase. I actually think he had a bunch of followers before even getting to the UFC because he was majorly whispered about around that side of the world. Everyone kind of knew what he was doing, destroying everyone. Brave CF just ran through competition, and good competition as well. Beat Ikram Aliskerov in 2019, but in 2020, he started in July. He ended in September and he got 3 good wins and gained like 800,000 Instagram followers overnight, it felt like, or week after week. He just kept getting an overall shipment of 100k followers week after week. 100k, 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 just blew up completely on Instagram and Twitter. He's a massive star, but the level of competition that he did it against, to me, just keeps him a little bit from that #1 spot this year, because we've got a lot of competition. However, I do respect that Khamzat Chimaev was nowhere this start of the year, was outside of the UFC, hadn't even had his UFC debut, and now he's at the top looking for Leon Edwards. If he would have beaten Leon Edwards at the end of the year, you know for a fact he would be at #1 on this list, but he didn't get the Leon Edwards fight at the end of the year, and it looks like we aren't even going to get it in 2021 now, because of this fucking stupid synchronized sneezing around the world, man. Just fucking hold your nose, for fuck's sake. Won't even see it in 2021, but Khamzat Chimaev, definitely #2 on this list. And I also want to mention this. Zubaira Tukhugov has 3 million followers, and he ain't no fucking prince over there, okay? So, as much as I like looking at followers of fighters, I think there's a situation in certain areas of the world where the followers might not be so real. I'll be honest with you guys, because the engagement rate is way off on their followings. Like, you can see Zubaira Tukhugov gets like 30k likes on something and has 3 million views. It's pretty ridiculous. 3 million followers overall, which is pretty ridiculous if you ask me. But I just feel like a lot of those, I don't know, a couple of accounts here, and everywhere. I'm not saying he isn't a big star. I understand he is, but I feel like he's kind of generated as much hype as Kevin Holland has this year, and Holland has a fraction of the Instagram followers, and that gets me to my next guy on the list who didn't take on bottom feeders this year, because Khamzat Chimaev took on Meerschaert 31-13, 10-2 Reese McKee, John Phillips 22-9. Reese McKee, lightweight from Cage Warriors, short notice. John Phillips, short notice. Gerald Meerschaert, short notice, fed to him. I just feel like the level of competition of this #1 guy on my list, and the activity that he has put out in 2020, which is something that Khamzat Chimaev tried to do but couldn't for any reason. It might not have been his own fault, but it was still not done in 2020. The activity of Kevin Holland at #1 on my list will carry him towards the breakthrough fighter and star of 2020, and I feel like I'm going to give him that title and star power-wise as well. Even though he doesn't have the most Instagram followers out of Khamzat Chimaev and him, I still feel like the buzz around Kevin Holland is massive. And also, he called out Khamzat Chimaev, and Chimaev's been dead fucking silent about it, I'll be honest with you guys. Like, his fight's fallen out with Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is looking for new opponents for January 20th, and Khamzat ain't saying nothing to Kevin Holland or anything like that. Kevin Holland's tried to call him out. Brendan Allen tried calling him out as well. Like, I know Brendan Allen's career hasn't really gone too well, but Kevin Holland on this list, if you look at where he was at the end of 2019, I just mentioned Brendan Allen rear naked choked him in the second round. He almost lost to Gerald Meerschaert and almost lost to Alessio De Chirico. These are not good wins, and at the end of the year, I was thinking to myself, you know what, Kevin Holland, this might be the end of it. For him, he hasn't looked good against anyone, to be honest with you. He doesn't really look that good overall anyway. He's got a fun style and he talks a lot in the cage, but he's losing fights and he's not looking too spectacular in them either, and it felt like it was a little bit of a dead end in his career and in terms of his ceiling of skill that he can get over in the UFC, because if you're barely scratching past Alessio De Chirico and Gerald Meerschaert, I don't know how you're going to do against a top 15, but Kevin Holland defied the odds. May of 2020, not even starting at the start of this year either, much like Chimaev. May of 2020 beats Anthony Hernandez. Turns around under 3 months later against Joaquin Buckley, gets a highlight reel KO there. Increases his stock massively, sends the gum shield flying. Everyone remembers it quite well. Then you move on to September. Darren Stewart beats him. Close fight, but beats him. Gains stock there as well. Charlie Ontiveros in October has his altercation with Israel Adesanya. Now he's on the scene. Now he's on the map in the middleweight division. Then he takes on Jacare Souza and KOs him off of his back, and maybe earns himself one of the best KOs of the year. I think Kevin Holland overall, in terms of the body of the work, the quality of the work that he's done, and the records of the people that he's beaten and what the people that he has beaten have gone on to do as well. I think Kevin Holland takes the biscuit over Khamzat Chimaev. I'm open to an argument otherwise. I just feel like Chimaev, you beat 3 cans and a third of your followers aren't real. So, you know, I like it though. Khamzat Chimaev's a big name. I just feel like there's the same level of hype and build-up for Holland and Chimaev, but the followers aren't the same. I think it's an American thing, maybe. Americans just don't like, I guess, being seen to follow a bunch of people, but they know about them, because Holland's clips of him doing stuff in fights go like millions and millions of views, just like Chimaev's do. But the followers aren't there. It was weird. I guess maybe Dagestanis are just all over their fighters. and Chechnyans and, you know, well, we're going to get off the topic, but still, Kevin Holland, #1 on my list of breakthrough fighters, and I also want to mention this as well. The positions on the cards that they were on, I believe Khamzat Chimaev started headlining the prelims, so that's going to give him a big jump up anyway. Marvin Vettori on this list started second fight on the early prelims, just after the opening fight of the card on Jędrzejczyk versus Waterson. He's really gained a lot this year, and I'll go through my honourable mentions as well. Ilia Topuria, of course, has to be mentioned, but only 2 fights and didn't really gain a ton of buzz, but he has got a bunch of buzz off his 1 fight with Damon Jackson, but not too much compared to these other guys. Then you've got Marlon Vera, another guy on the list, gained a lot of buzz with his win over Sean O'Malley, who's another guy that could be an honourable mention here. Sean O'Malley tried this year, got his win over Jose Alberto Quinones, got his win over Eddie Wineland, but then it sort of fizzled out and failed. And I feel like this is more about where you started and where you ended, rather than if you started big and then ended low. And I feel like Sean O'Malley's kind of ended low because of that loss to Marlon Vera, and Marlon Vera's ended low because of that loss to Jose Aldo. So I don't think you can call him a breakout or breakthrough star. Marlon Vera, Sean O'Malley, both honourable mentions though. Same with Ilia Topuria. Same with Jiří Procházka as well. Just a body of work. 1 fight, 1 win. He had a lot of followers beforehand as well. He was dominating not top competition, but he was dominating big name competition over at whatever organisation he was at before, against guys like King Mo and etc, etc. Big names he was taking on over there, so he already had a bit of a following. Gained like 40k for his fight with Volkan Ozdemir, which means he already had over 100,000 before his fight with Volkan Ozdemir anyway, but very good job from Jiří Procházka. Then you got Sean O'Malley, of course, as I mentioned. Bryce Mitchell, again, body of work this year. Beat Andre Fili, very good. Beat Charles Rosa, also very good. But I feel like Bryce Mitchell's big popularity boom was after he got the Twister win against Matt Sales and went on Theo Von's show and got like hundreds of thousands of views there. I feel like that was where his sort of career kind of peaked in terms of a breakout moment. I don't think we had another massive implosion of a Bryce Mitchell fan base growing in 2020, but he's definitely an honourable mention because he had some good performances and had the camo shorts and everything. Amanda Ribas as well. A lot of people are going to talk about her, but she had more than anyone on my top 5 in terms of followers before this year had even started, because she beat Mackenzie Dern and she has a nice ass. It's nothing to do with the performances. It's just you win a close decision, and that's what you get, hundreds of thousands of followers. So I feel like in terms of earning the followers, she can't go on the top 5, but Amanda Ribas did submit Paige Van Zandt. Competition level. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know what I mean? Amanda Ribas. She got a win. Good job, Amanda Ribas. Definitely not on the top 5, but definitely a breakout star of 2020 for sure. But Davison Figueiredo, as I said before, I wasn't even going to put him in the honourable mentions, but some people are mentioning him. Same way people were mentioning Brandon Moreno for this category. If you didn't know who they were before this year, like, if you had, like, not a lot of understanding of Kevin Holland's game before this year, that's okay. Same with Chimaev. Same with Vettori. They really didn't stand out above anything else. They had a bunch of close fights, didn't really destroy anyone too much or go viral or anything like that. Chikadze wasn't even here pretty much until the end of 2019. Buckley wasn't even here, so I understand with those guys. But Figueiredo had earned a title shot in 2019. People were putting him in, like, their breakout stars of the year. I understand he's gained followers, but he was in a title elimination bout at the end of 2019. And Brandon Moreno was in title fight position in 2019 as well. Like, I think he should have been given the title shot over Alex Perez whenever 255 happened. But, you know, whatever. 2020 has been a good year. Those are my breakout stars. Hopefully you agree with them. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. See you later.